Okay, good morning. It looks like everything is working well enough for you guys to get on the to get the show, but got a little hiccup here. But let's run the intro. Let's see if we can make this work. So no fade, no okay. Sorry. Okay, so I'm having a little equipment hiccup here, and I think it has to do with an update that just dropped for one of the pieces of gear. So I just have to do some maintenance after work, after the show today. So I yeah, it's a slow news day, guys. Basically the only thing in the news right now that's even remotely interesting, because I don't care about the Crowder drama and all that garbage that's going on over there. Uh I just hope it works out soon and they shut up. And we covered the bridge thing yesterday, so slow news week, which on the one hand is a good thing. Um Dad says he has me on X but not YouTube. So before live is hard mode and it's a slow news day. And honestly, this show right here may not be I don't think this is going to be the one that blows us over the top. So let me take a minute. I'm right there. I am on YouTube. One I see it blows us over the top. There's that. So let's dig into the article, and let me just say, at least half the reason that I'm even covering this article today is because I thought the "it's getting hard to remember" pun was fantastic, because it's more than one pun. And I just couldn't ignore that. So here's what we're looking at. I've got an article here, and I actually saw this a couple days ago, and then it popped up again on one of the trending tabs while I was researching this morning. Does Viagra reduce the risk of Alzheimer's? Here's what we know. Okay. There is a lot of conversation going on right now about exogenous hormonal birth control and the psychological effects of that on young women. For most of my life, it has been the case, and this may sound unrelated, but stay with me. For most of my life, it has been the case that, somewhere around 14, 15, 16, women start taking birth control. And it's not just the teenage pregnancy thing, which of course was an issue. Right now we're so dramatically far below replacement birth rates in this country that may be an issue that needs a revisitation and discussion. But as many of you probably know, part of the hormonal birth control is that it affects the period, it affects the cycle. And so young ladies don't have their period as often, which, okay, I don't have a direct frame of reference, but I can imagine that at a minimum would be convenient, right? In the most generous of terms, I can imagine that the monthly cycle is, at a minimum, very inconvenient. And obviously, it's not just inconvenient. There's a little more to it than that. And I have known women who it's just a thing that happens and it passes by and they're done with it. And I have known other women that should probably be incarcerated for the entire duration of this of the event. So shit happens. That said, the implementation of such drugs is relatively novel to the entire human condition, right? We're talking about the last half century out of the whole of human experience, historical experience, and we really don't understand what the consequences of that are, but we may be beginning to. I mention that because it's something that's trending. There's a lot of conversation around that with young women now, and many women who are in their 30s and 40s now who did grow up. My mom's cracking jokes about how this wasn't a part of her experience when she was younger. So, okay, hold on. Slow down, chat. Slow the hell down. So mom cracks a joke. Obviously I didn't, and I was 22, and yeah, that was the beginning of the 80s, and here I am. But it being medical advice and accepted as just the norm, but basically as soon as you're 14, 15, 16, you just go on birth control and you stay on it perpetually until you're in your mid-20s and decide to have a kid. There are some real concerns and some very serious medical concerns and psychological concerns that are being brought to light by conversations among women who are just beginning to face receiving that medical advice, and women who followed that medical advice and had negative outcomes as a result. So there's a lot of conversation going on there. Now let's switch over to men for a minute. We need that help at the other end of the life cycle. So if I'm being perfectly fair about the pill, young ladies use the pill for recreational purposes. Right? At its core, that's what it's about. Just like the abortion issue. And let me be fair, the little blue pill, the Viagra or whatever stimulant pill that you're going to use to revitalize a, shall we say, flagging economic interest, is for recreational purposes. But when you're talking about the hormonal birth control that women use for recreational purposes, you're talking about something that has a serious effect on your body during the period, no pun intended here, when your body is still developing, doing a significant amount of developing, right? There are 14 and 15-year-old girls who are being prescribed the medication. They are not done with puberty yet. They may be at the tail end of it, but puberty's not just a thing that happens. You don't go to bed at night in your pink princess pajamas and wake up with double D's, right? It's a process. It takes time, and interrupting that process has negative effects. Now, with the transgender issue is a big part of the conversation in the medical community, where there is some obvious corruption going on with the introduction of junk science by people like John Money and the like. We're hearing about children, right? And when I say children in this context, I'm not talking about 14, 15, 16-year-old girls, right? as much as it might be right to think of young ladies in that age bracket as children, what we're talking about in this context with the transgender medical, I'll say in scare quotes, because fuck, how did these people get out of a school or get through a licensing exam? Oh, no, they're talking about prescribing hormone altering, body manipulating medications to children as, in diapers. Like there's no bottom limit to the age bracket to whom they would issue these drugs. Now, primarily affected there, we're talking more like the 7 to 12 age group. But we don't know enough about something as seemingly innocuous as hormonal birth control, which is, like I already said, quite novel in the scale of history. And we've got all that going on. Whereas on the recreational sexual side, for men, well, we're talking about a pill that you take when you're older and you're just trying to kind of hang on for a few more years of solid life quality. And that is a lot of prevaricating about without actually reading the article. So what the article suggests, and this is interesting, numerous studies have suggested that erectile dysfunction drugs like Viagra, the famous blue pill, may reduce someone's risk of developing Alzheimer's. But so far, none have proved that the drug actually cause that risk reduction. Okay, if there's an apparent correlation here within the context of the modern capacity of the scientific community, I'm willing to put some stock in the anecdotal observation evidence in a use case like this, largely because I was forced at gunpoint to pretend like I would believe in the scientific conclusions of those who made the outlandish claims that without any testing of any quality whatsoever, we had concluded that the COVID vaccine was 100% effective at stopping transmission and preventing acquisition of a novel virus. So forgive me if my faith in the medical community and journalists like these live science guys has been shaken by, I don't know, evidence. A new study of almost 670,000 men in the UK, published February 7th in the journal Neurology, revealed that those who take so-called phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitors, which include Viagra, generic sildenafil, may have a lower risk of developing this common form of dementia than men of the same age who don't take the drugs. Another study published March 19th in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that people who took sildenafil were 30 to 54% less likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease compared to those who didn't, adding to this idea. Before I read any further into this, I can jump to a conclusion that I think is not unreasonable, and that is that erectile dysfunction in your twilight years, I guess we could say, erectile dysfunction at an older age is not the only thing necessarily that prevents a man from remaining sexually active into 70s, 80s, and going on. And so it may simply be the case that those men who are still healthy enough to have sex with, assuming the absence of erectile dysfunction, are those less likely to suffer from Alzheimer's and that they use the Viagra supplement is an ancillary concern. Take, for example, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, Biden is obviously significantly older than Donald Trump, except the fact of the matter is he's only a few years older. But on visual analysis based on the anecdotes available to you, Joe Biden is clearly 173,000 years older than Donald Trump, just based on their general health and mental stability. But they're actually, within a half a decade of each other. That said, Trump has a long and apparently unbroken history of porn stars and swimsuit models, and Joe Biden shat himself when he met the Pope. So, and Donald Trump is still funny and pretty witty and clever, and Joe Biden is unable to complete sentences or even whole syllables in many instances. So it may very well be the case that it's just that we all age differently, and some of us get into those octogenarian years, and maybe we don't get around so good. Maybe our hips don't work so good, and having sex isn't an option whether or not you can get it up. So there's a little piece of just kind of analytics to look at how the pill may or may not be related. It may simply be that in that sample bracket, some people are healthier than other men, right? But this isn't the first time that drugs like the little blue pill have been linked to this reduced dementia risk. Since the late 90s, rodent studies have suggested that Viagra, PDE5I drugs, could have beneficial effects on cognition. And in 2021, a study published in the journal Nature Aging suggested that taking Viagra was associated with a 69% reduced risk of Alzheimer's. That 2021 study included more than 7 million people in the U.S. who, on average, were around 71 years old, 116 of whom took Viagra. So, I really don't have any conclusions here. I wanted to talk. I did this show this morning because it's a slow news day. It gave me an opportunity for one fantastic dick joke in the thumbnail, and a not, I hope, too unentertaining tie-in to have a brief conversation about concerns with putting all our young women beginning around age 14 or 15 on hormone-altering birth control. For the parents out there, my advice is, kids are going to do what kids are going to do. Tell them things. Talk to them. Hell, make it scary. If you've got a 13 or 14-year-old daughter, maybe she needs to babysit the 4-year-old from time to time, and just be terrified about what it's going to mean to do that anytime soon. These girls at the young age that are being prescribed those medications that is the age at which young humans in our current social moray should become interested in understanding what the act is. But we've allowed a corrupt teachers union and the leftist capture of media and entertainment to force those conversations to happen much earlier. Much earlier. And that hasn't helped us out either. Okay, well, I have got some work to do this morning. Thank you guys for watching the show, for tuning in. I'm gonna reboot this machine to see if I can't get the equipment fixed, because this was not one of my better shows. I've been distracted by trying to keep everything running right without the equipment working correctly. So, thanks for tuning in, guys. Tomorrow's Firearms Friday. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to see you guys tomorrow morning. I love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.